I remember when I was 12, I went to a concert, my first ever concert, at the NEC Birmingham Arena. And all the girls were screaming at George in the band Wham. And I remember climbing on my seat and thinking, I'm not going to scream, because I was dreaming. I thought, yeah, I'm going to marry you instead. I'm not going to be a fan. I'm going to, I put my sights on him, because he was the clever one, the sort of more, he came across as a more thoughtful one, whereas all the other girls were screaming for Andrew Ridgeley. And then he sort of pointed somewhere in my direction, went, and all I want right now is you. And I was like, okay.
Every young girl has their fun. The brightest star burns at the dawn. Who knows why the good die young? I wonder where you've gone. Could have been born tomorrow.
Wasn't till many years later, and I'd had some success with the Spice Girls, and I was at the Capital Radio Music Awards, and I was with the other girls, and George was giving, he was picking up an award, he was talking about his mother had died. And I'd never heard anybody talk so openly and honest about, such a sad thing. And my father had died, and I was in a lot of pain, and I'd gone straight into the Spice Girls from after my dad's death, and I felt so drawn to him, and I fancied him.
The pain, where all angels in chains, looking back the aftermath, still burning from the flame.
And I remember thinking, because there are all these really nice lunch tables, and I've got the other girls with me, and I'm thinking I need to lose these girls because I want to go and flirt with him by myself. And I was thinking, how can I shake him off? And I did. I shook the other girls off, and I went up to him, and I tried to give my best flirty eyes, like, hi. And there wasn't any energy, sort of that sexual energy back, but I was like, okay, he's not doing that back. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but I was like, But we exchanged numbers, and I remember, I was really like, wow. And then we started to really chat a lot, and then he mentioned his boyfriend. I was like, what? I suddenly was like, I was so baffled. I was like, you've got a boyfriend? And then it all fell into place. I was like, okay, so what can be the next? If I can't be your wife, what can be the next best thing? So we became friends. I wouldn't have met you guys if it wasn't for George, because I wouldn't have done. I wouldn't have written a song. I wouldn't have, asked to meet his people and share it with you. But it's almost like a gift. You've all given me like a gift of confidence and musicality, pushing me. It does feel like a little gift from Georgie lot. It feels really bittersweet being here, because when he died, I didn't know what to do. I was pregnant, and I had all these feelings, and the only thing I knew to do was to write a song. And I was in the middle of writing some other songs, and then I went to the record company and I said, here's my batch of songs, because there was about 5 of them, and they came back and said, this is great, but the one we love the most is Angels in Chains, the one about George. And I was like, really? Because that was my most vulnerable song. And then I felt kind of very sort of sensitive and awkward about it. And I thought, well, normally when I have a sort of a problem like this, I would go and knock on George's door and say, what do you think I should do? And he'd give me a very strong opinion. And he wasn't there anymore to do it. And I was like, just feels so, I didn't know what to do. And I thought, okay, I'm going to ring somebody that I know that has worked with him for many, many years. And that is Chris Porter. He'd worked from Wham, and then up to Jesus for a Child. You know, and George is meticulous in his choices of who he works with. So I thought, you know what, this guy really must know his stuff. The fact that he's been around that long. And I played him the song and he said, Geri, I really want to work on this with you. And I was like, wow, okay, that's amazing. And then I called up Shirley Lewis. This is the backing singer from Father Figure, and she's worked with him all the way through his solo career. And I said to her, I explained the situation. She said, and she heard it, and she started crying, and she said, I want to do it too. And then there's Chris Cameron. He's been an MD and a pianist. Like, he worked on the beginning of Cowboys and Angels. You know that beautiful bit that we all know? You'd recognise instantly. Phil Palmer worked with George since 1988 on Listen Without Prejudice, and then for almost 30 years. And then there's Jay Henry, who worked with George, the last 10 years up till Symphonica, and so did Lucy. It was just like a very organic process, that all these different people that, you know, loved and worked with George, they were his musical family, wanted to be part of it. And then suddenly I found myself in a room with the most talented, supreme people, and it was the only way I can describe it. Is imagine if you're into jogging a little bit, and then suddenly you get to jog along with Usain Bolt. They were just at such an amazing level of musicians. I'm just like, wow. It feels like a very warm way to come together and say goodbye, but celebrate him as well.
Do it again. Do that again.
Understand me.
That is a lick from Father Figure. I'm a George fan. I was a George Michael fan from the beginning. That was first. And so I want to share that with other George Michael fans.
Heal the pain. Heal the pain. We're all angels in chains. Angels in chains. Heal the pain. Heal the pain. We're all angels in chains.
And I think music is a brilliant way of doing that. And just in this short time of working on this record with all these amazing people, I thought, actually, I've seen it in front of my own eyes, people, you know, crying and coming together and feeling better, and then moving into the joy of celebrating a life, focusing on the good stuff. And, you know, thank God we had him for that time. For whatever reason, he didn't stay as long as we wanted him to, but we had him then, and he gave us so many gifts.
Say goodbye, you're a star tonight. It's time to heal the pain.